We had said to everybody, we're not going to do business with scammers or the adult entertainment business. Mm-hmm. Two largest industries, and we were really in desperate straits. This big deal came in, and I remember it closing because my partner, David, gave me a high five, and he was a former Marine, and my hand still stinks from that high five. We discovered that it was for the bad guys, the adult entertainment people, the porn guys. The ethical dilemma, by the way, wasn't whether we installed the circuit, but it was how we handle the compensation of the sales rep. I mean, he was hoping for this commission check. So at the worst cash position we'd ever had in the company, we paid the largest commission check for a deal we didn't close.
Wow. Welcome, everybody. This is Simon Gilbo with Inspired. Inspired, if you're new to us, is all about meeting different friends and contacts of mine from across the globe that have got just great stories of God at work in and through them, through the highs and the lows. And I think we're all just fed up of the relentless bombardment we get on the news 24/7 that just makes you cynical and depressed and anxious and angry. So what we need is dollops of good news and encouraging stuff. I've got no doubt this week you're going to be super encouraged because we got with us all the way from just near Palo Alto in California. We've got Henry Kaestner. Welcome, Henry.
Simon, what a treat. Thank you for having me. A dollop of good cheer, I hope.
Yeah, bring it on. So Henry and I were together at the HTB Leadership Conference earlier on in the year. He's a friend, mutual friend is Chris Kuchani, who's also working in that private equity venture capital space. And Henry, you've co-founded a whole bunch of stuff. I'm currently, I think Sovereign's Capital is a big deal. You were the co-founder also of Bandwidth, which sister company Republic Wireless grew from 0 to I think 300 million in revenue. So big stuff. I'm super excited about discussing faith-driven entrepreneur, which, if I'm reading your blurb, you're about equipping, encouraging, empowering Christ-following entrepreneurs and business owners. And there's a whole load of stats. Listen, I don't want to go into your long CV. I just want to get cracking. And I think that gives people enough of a taste to know what drives you and what you're about as an entrepreneur that wants to build and release people and maximize your God-given talents in that space. So I don't know much about your background. Why don't you kick us off? Just, childhood, any significant moments, how you were shaped? Go for it.
Sure. So Simon, it's awesome being with you and your audience. I grew up in a town called Baltimore, Maryland, which is on the East Coast of the United States. I live on the West Coast now. I discovered my first love when I went to college. And it was not a girl, wasn't a guy. It was that I could make a t-shirt for $5 and sell it for 10. And that was amazing to me. And the idea of getting out there and making something and then have that product validated and selling it door to door in dorm rooms was just invigorating. It was so much fun. I did that throughout all of my university time until I got into some legal challenges. As it turns out, copyright infringement is a thing, and you don't get a hall pass completely when you're a college student. So my dad said, look, you can plead naivete, as I did, as a 20-year-old. But by the time you're 21, you need to get a real job. And so that was about the time that the movie Wall Street came out. Michael Douglas, Charlie Sheen.
Gordon Gekko.
And it was all about the glamour of making money on Wall Street. And I thought, gosh, that's what I want. I want to be this Bud Fox character. He's got 2 phones up. He's dating Daryl Hannah. He's got an apartment on the Upper West Side with the exposed brick wall. He's got his own sushi maker. I'm like, that's what I want to be. And that, Simon, is the first sign that your life is going off the rails when Charlie Sheen, who's the actor who played Bud Fox, when Charlie Sheen's your first role model, it's not a good sign. No. And so I went up to New York City and worked on Wall Street, chasing all the different things that I was sure were going to give me success and joy. And that was a real challenge. Now, to be clear, over that period of time, living and working in New York City, there are lots of adrenaline highs. There's lots of excitement. There's lots of times that I was on the top of the mountain thinking, gosh, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm the king of the world type of moments. But there's also this incredible nagging sense that this isn't all there is there. I felt a complete lack of peace. I'd feel the adrenaline hit and the excitement that comes with that, of course. But then as that would continue, this continued emptiness and this kind of lack of meaning, and actually ended up culminating in a period of anxiety and depression. And at age 28, I'd dated a lot of girls. I'd made a lot of money, and I just was really in a bad way. And I had along the way met a wonderful woman named Kimberly. And Kimberly and I decided to move to North Carolina. I wanted to set up an energy derivative trading company.
Mm-hmm.
And about 6 months after we moved to North Carolina, we went into a church. And we went into a church because a friend of mine had said, "Oh, if you're moving to North Carolina, you should check out this church." And Kimberly and I had both grown up generally as Christians. In Baltimore, you're either Christian or you're Jewish. And I knew culturally I was more Christian than Jewish. And so, and we'd gone to church, to be clear. But I never really had the sense that there's a God of the universe who loved me and that he sent his son to die for me. But none of that was all kind of, I mean, I knew the Christmas story. I knew generally about Easter. But Kimberly and I thought, wow, if we're going to have kids and raise a family, maybe we should check out a church. Maybe we should join it. Maybe we can make some friends and things like that. So we walked into this church, and in the church was a pastor who was preaching as if he believed the Bible was true. Like, wow, that's kind of wild. I mean, he must be one of those fundamentalist types. But he was confident, he was articulate, and he was intelligent. And I thought, he doesn't seem like a cult leader. And this was going on in my mind, just trying to reconcile who I thought were these narrow-minded people who make fundamentalist Christians and the much broader, open folks that I would characterize at the time as more of a liberal Christianity. So the thing that seemed to really define this pastor was his belief that the Bible was true. And I didn't. I thought it was just like any other type of mythological document. Mm-hmm. And so it occurred to me, I went on a run one day and I thought, gosh, I might get up to heaven. And up in heaven, St. Peter's there. And it's like, all right, Kaestner, when you're on earth, you'd read like 1,000 books, but you never cracked the cover of the best-selling book of all time. So I can't let you in. I'm like, oh my goodness, it can't go down like that. So I got a Bible. And Simon, with a guy like runs a podcast like this, you know that there are a lot of pages in the Bible. And I got through prep school in the States by reading what are called the Cliff Notes. I don't know if they have them in the UK, but the Cliff Notes are these summaries of the great classics. So instead of reading Dickens, you read this like little yellow kind of pamphlet that tells you some of the high points of Tale of Two Cities or something like that. And I thought, I can't read the whole Bible, but this New Testament, it looks like the Cliff Notes of the Bible. I knew enough to know it was the Christian part. So I read through it. And I'll tell you, the first time reading through it, it took me further away from faith. And I found it kind of like offensive. I mean, just like this Jesus, he's got like this God complex and this, this kind of exclusive type of faith thing, like, I am God and I saw Satan fall, like, all those different types of things. And, but it intrigued me enough to actually just enough questions. And a lot of times I'll do this. I'll listen to a podcast like at 1.5 speed. I'm like, no, that was really good. I need to go back. I need to listen to that again. There's some things in there that are really intriguing. I'll go back and I'll listen to it at 1x. And that's what happened to me with the New Testament. I went back and read it again. And then halfway, and I don't know exactly where it was, but it occurred to me over time, over like a week's time, like, oh my goodness, I think this is true. And if it's true, it changes everything. And that's when I gave my life to Christ. I said, if it's true, it changes everything. There's a God of the universe, and he loves me, and he sent his son to die for me. And all these different things I did in New York when I was leading this just hedonistic life. And all the sin that's in my mind now, and all the sin that'll be in my mind in the future, all these things have been forgiven. And there's a God who loves me as a loving Father. It just blew my mind. It changed everything. And so I came to faith at age 28.
So that film, Wall Street, I think Gordon Gekko, isn't that famous line?
Yes.
Greed is great. Greed is good. Greed is what will make our country great, wasn't it? That was his famous line. I mean,
greed cuts through and clarifies the American ethos, and greed not only will save Teldar paper, but it'll save this malfunctioning corporation called the United States of America. Yes.
So yeah. Had you up to age 28, was that what you believed? Was that what you were living?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't so much greed, though that was an element of it. It was a search for pleasure, a search for joy, Yeah. And that now, Simon, you fast forward, I'm 55 now. That search for joy continues. And it's interesting, there are a whole bunch of different things that happen along the way between 28 and 55. But it's really only been over the last 5 years that I've really kind of reconciled myself to this search for joy is actually something that God plants in all of us as his image bearers.
Yeah.
And that search for joy is right. I was just searching for that joy in the wrong places. And I've now understood that that joyful pursuit is a great thing and it leads us to God. And there's absolutely scripture that talks about taking up our cross and dying to self. Those are all true things too, but equally true, maybe more true, is the sense of yearning of finding joy. And you see that in letters of Paul. Paul just talking about the fact he's discovered the secret to finding joy in all of these hardships that he's experienced. And I've come to realize that my pursuit of joy that I had in my 20s is the same type of pursuit of joy in some respects that I have in my 50s now.
Mm-hmm. So John Piper, isn't it? Desiring God. It's just, we are meant to be Christian hedonists, not hedonists, but Christian hedonists.
Yes.
And
yes,
so,
I like that.
100%. Yeah, the pursuit of joy, but Christ channeled, and therefore that wiring that you had of taking a $5 t-shirt, selling it for $10, that is how God's made you, hasn't it? So how did that pan out from 28 onwards?
So I started this firm that was broking electricity derivative futures contracts and options. And gosh, it was a lot of fun. It was, so
that's gobbledygook for most people, isn't it? But it doesn't matter in a sense.
Think of unbelievably, electricity is actually a tradable commodity. You can actually trade megawatts of electricity for physical delivery. A utility can zap it to the grid, and it can be picked up and laid claim by other folks that use it over transmission to their clients. And as any other type of commodity, it can be traded. Now, it's a very volatile commodity in that it doesn't have any storability. So prices can be $20 a megawatt hour one day and $2,000 the next day in the summer. Crazy stuff. And it makes for great volatility and lots of options and derivatives that come off of that. And I had a little bit of a background in that. And through the grace of God, that firm became the number one ranked electricity derivative broker. I think it was 1999. Wow. And, but there are aspects of that business that troubled me as I came to a new faith. It was entertaining traders late at night and just a bunch of different things. And this happens a lot with adult converts, I think, that things become very black and white. And interestingly, I had a partner who was a believer, and he was the guy who told me about that church. I think that people who have been in the faith for a lot longer can understand how to be in the world, but not of it. Mm-hmm. And he did. And he understood the shades of gray, and he understood when not to go out late at night. But for me, everything needed was very black and white. I just needed to run away from this past life I had. And so we decided to sell the firm, and we did. We sold it. He stayed on. And then I started a broking company to broker telecommunications contracts. So back then, bandwidth was going to be the next tradable commodity. And you could trade internet access and capacity over very large circuits, particularly in Europe. So I moved to London and had great fun helping to get that new industry started. Those contracts are not traded with any type of frequency now as they once were. A lot of that's because Enron, who was the pioneer in the market, went belly up. But in the course of doing that, I came to understand the great opportunities in telecom. And to make a longer story short, I ended up starting a company with a guy named David Morgan, who's become my best friend and business partner. Amazing, amazing man. And he'd been a lifelong Christian. And we started this company called Bandwidth to help small to medium-sized businesses to be able to get access to the internet in a way that had some level of transparency and accountability, good pricing, good service. And kind of like an Expedia, but to business internet access. Back in the late 90s, 2000, it was very hard for small to medium-sized businesses to get reliable internet access. It's much, much different now, of course. And so we started this company called Bandwidth with these foundational values of faith first, then family, then work, and then fitness. And it was a wonderful time of spending time in prayer. I'd been a believer for about a year. He was a lifelong believer, praying that God would show us the problems that he wanted us to solve, that would start the company the right way. And then through the grace of God, things worked very, very well for Bandwidth. We have had some terrific success. The company now does about $800 million in revenue. It's a controlled public company. So David and I continue to control the company, but it's a publicly traded company. And then off of that have come a number of other companies too. Republic Wireless, a company that was really key in being able to develop the technology that allows for cell phone calls to go between the mobile network and the Wi-Fi network and back again. And that is now a technology owned that we sold to Dish Networks. And then another company called Relay. Think of a mobile phone and a walkie-talkie marrying and having a baby. That's the Relay device. And that's a product that's used for primarily for hospitality. Big stadiums give it to all their vendors because it's an always-on device. It's either on the cellular network or it's on Wi-Fi, but it's always on. And then it has instant translation. So when somebody says, hey, we need to go ahead and get more pretzels to section 5 or whatever, the technology knows to transmit that in real time to whatever language the vendor is speaking. And so that's a lot of fun too. So those telecom companies over the last 25 years have done well under these foundational values of faith first, family, work, and fitness. And then maybe I'll unpack those a bit because I think that they're important. On the fitness side, we have maybe 1,600 employees. Everybody gets 2 hours off to be able to work out at lunch, which is a long time.
Yeah.
We have had the citywide ice hockey champion. We've had ultimate frisbee champion. We entered a team into the mountain bike race, the Trans Rockies mountain bike race, and finished second. We entered a team into the Race Across America and won it back in 2010. Fitness is a big part of who we are as a company. It's a big part of who Dave and I are. David's a world-class endurance athlete, or was a world-class endurance athlete, and an ultra-marathoner. I'm a neighborhood class endurance athlete. And I can beat most people in my neighborhood, but I live in a neighborhood mostly of retirees. But I like working out.
Just on that race across America, what's the record now? Because I didn't race across America, but I cycled across America. I did it in 34 days. I think the race across America, is it 7 days, the record or something? It's something nuts.
Well, so if you solo it, I think probably 11 or 12. Yuri Robic.
That's the one, yeah.
Did it.
Didn't he die?
Then we were on the, I was part of the 8-man team. We entered an 8-man team and that finished 4th. And we beat out the British team, which had the captain was a great rower. Oh my goodness, what's his name? It's escaping me right now. The guy who won 5 gold medals. Amazing guy.
Stephen Redgrave.
Yes, Stephen Redgrave. It was the captain of the 8-man team. And then, but we won the 4-man team. In our 8-man team, we finished in 6.5 days.
Wow.
So you're always going. You're on time trial bikes. You know, half hour on, hour and a half off for 4-hour stints. And then you try to get a little bit of sleep. It's nuts.
Okay.
It's nuts.
So that's,
really didn't sleep.
So that's fitness. Sorry, we're digressing. That's fitness. Keep going.
Yes. Oh yeah, yes. We are digressing. So fitness. And then our fitness is not as important, of course, as our work. When we work to coin something from another great British athlete, when we work, we feel God's pleasure from Eric Liddell.
Yeah.
Right. And it really, we feel that as running Bandwidth, one of the greatest gifts we can give people is meaningful work, a problem to solve, to use their God-given ability to execute, innovate, and that's wonderful. We love to work, but our work is not as important as our family. Mm-hmm. Date night is every Wednesday night. I want to be there for my kids' athletic events. And there's such a thing as the shadow of a leader. When you leave on Wednesday night for date nights, without even having it codified in your just HR practices, people will then go ahead and say, I'm sorry, I can't make that call on Tuesday night. I've got date night. Really important. for the first couple of years of date night, I'd rush into the house and like, okay, Kimberly, I'm here. Let's go out on date night. And then I realized with time, I actually needed to prepare for date night the same way I prepared for a business meeting. I needed to like prepare for a half hour, and I needed to slow my pace down to hers.
Yeah.
If I was indeed trying to tell her that she mattered more than my work, I needed to prepare for it better. I mean, I used to be a mess. Just like, don't tell that. We tell the babysitter the same instructions every time she knows your number, right? But I realized I wasn't doing it right. And then the most important thing about us is our faith. And we want to be able to share with people and everything I do, the reason for the hope we have. And to do that with gentleness and respect. And for us, that meant always telling the founding story. And while I'm no longer even on the board of Bandwidth, David continues to have breakfast with new employees to talk about the founding story rooted in faith.
Beautiful.
And to talk about his faith, not in a way that presumes or prescribes that it needs to be other people's faith, but they need to know the foundational values. They need to know how this was started, that this for us at Bandwidth is something more than just a job. It's more than even just solving problems and serving customers. For us, it's a calling.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity for us to use our God-given talents to commune with him, to be with him. It's worship.
Love that. Yeah. So we don't have to do it chronologically, but after Bandwidth, you've co-founded a whole bunch of stuff. So what do you want to talk about next?
Well, entrepreneurs are problem solvers, and I'm not a perfect problem solver, but I endeavor to solve problems. I get joy when I try to do that. And so as David and I got out and met with other Christians that were running companies, and through the grace of God, we ended up over a 5-year stretch being the 4th fastest growing privately held company in America.
Wow.
And so we got some notoriety within Christian circles. And we talked to other CEOs that were driven by their faith and just talking about, so what does it look like for you to worship God and work? And I get a lot of blank stares and people are like, well, you guys have it easy because we never raised venture capital. We tried really hard, but we went 0 for 40 in venture raises. And one of the things we talk about now in our ministry, Faith Driven Entrepreneur, is the difference between being willful and faithful. During the time in which we went 0 for 40 because we'd have multiple meetings with folks, over 150 meetings, we'd pray that we'd walk out of the meeting with a $20 million term sheet. But we never fasted and prayed about whether we should be raising money at all. And God is in his infinite mercy allowed us to not raise money. And so we ended up, in this situation where today we continue to control the company. But when we talked to other founders that were fast growing companies, they said, well, you guys can do that because you never raise venture capital. You don't have outside people on your board and you can't do these things. And when you have outsiders on a board and just, that's great that it works for you. And it occurred to me, like, if I was on their board, then I'd encourage them. If I was the investor in their company, then they'd feel more comfortable in pursuing their faith and work the way that God had allowed David and I to do the same. So started a fund called Sovereigns Capital. And the premise behind Sovereigns was that faith-driven entrepreneurs, those motivated by their Christian faith, that wanted to make redemptive products and services and love on their partners, vendors, customers, employees, et cetera, that they could do well. They could do well, not in spite of biblical values, but because of them. And that was the idea behind Sovereigns Capital. And I thought, gosh, this is going to be easy. I'm going to leave. I became the chairman of the executive chairman of Bandwidth. I spent some time there, but most of my time in this new fund, and gradually to where I spent no time at all at Bandwidth. And I thought, gosh, it's going to be easy. I'll go ahead. We've had incredible success through the grace of God at Bandwidth. I'll raise $20 million in 6 months and around this thesis and go out and find these other companies and be the first investor in them. Well, it took a long time. It took 2.5 years to raise $12 million. And I was 2 of that 12. So it was 2.5 years to raise $10 million behind the thesis. Christians, for whatever reason at the time, and this is back 15 years ago, just didn't believe in the concept of investing in other Christians. And it bothered me. It was so frustrating. It was a long, hard slog. But over time, I realized that, the world is littered with the dead bodies of people who've lost money by doing a deal in a church parking lot. And oftentimes when somebody comes to us and talks about their faith, hey, I'm a Christian person and I've got this business, will you invest? We equate it to like what we see a lot here in the States is like this. It's like you see the ichthus fish on a painter's van. And it's become almost like this thing of marketing. I'm using my Christian faith to market you. And it just becomes this, maybe an excuse for some of shoddy work. And I think that part that we want our faith to stand on its own with excellence without having to play the faith card gets wound up in all of that. And for a lot of that's for good reason. And part of that also were these real headwinds was that people had a difficult time in investing along their faith. So it was very, very difficult to get started with sovereigns. Now, fast forward through the grace of God, the thesis proved out, and the funds are doing great. We've got well north of $1 billion of assets under management.
Wow!
And some of the top performing funds. And what you and I know to be true, which is when a Christ follower can be motivated by the joy and gratitude that comes from knowing that there's a God who loves him and that their identity is not wrapped up in this business, but their identity is the beloved child of God, which doesn't mean that they then sit back. It means that they're just filled with joy and they have this new motive and they have this new purpose and they see that the gifts that God has given them as an opportunity to really fix what's wrong in the world and invite other people into that story. That's the nuclear source of energy that allows a Christ follower to excel. And gosh, it's been great. It's been a lot of fun. But then, talking about chronologically, so 4 years into this, next problem comes up. And it's that word got out that there's this fund that invests in Christian-led businesses. And we started getting deluged with all these folks coming in. Because if you're an entrepreneur, your business is your baby. You know that if you're going to be giving up a board seat, you want to have somebody who's going to pray with you and for you, and that's it. You want that to happen. So we got a ton of inbound, and we were saying no to about 99 out of 100 businesses that came to us for financing. So if you get into the business, as we did, to be an encouragement to a faith-driven entrepreneur, and you say no 99 out of 100 times, you're not being an encouragement, at least not most of them.
Yeah.
And it came to a head with a guy who called me up, Anatol Malancia. And he says, I want you to invest in my business. I'm like, okay, so tell me about it. He's like, well, I'm in real estate technology and I'm in Moldova. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is going to be the easiest no ever. I don't invest. I don't know anything about real estate. I can't even calculate a cap rate, which is like the metric you need for real estate. And I'm not even sure Moldova is a country. So we definitely can't invest. And I know Moldova is a country, but I'm thinking that at the time. Yeah. And this is 7 or 8 years ago. And he hears me. I say, try it as politely as I can to say, no, we can't invest. He's like, well, all right. Will you please spend time with me? Because I need to know. I mean, Moldova is a new country and I don't know many Christians here. And I want to know, can I bring on board a non-believing partner? And a whole bunch of questions he had for me. I said, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to schedule a Skype call. And we'll spend time, and I'll share with you some of the lessons that I learned at Bandwidth and some of the things that we've learned from our portfolio companies thus far. And so I took notes ahead of the call, which is rare for me. I prepared for the call, but I took these notes, and we had this talk. But I thought, gosh, this will happen again. Somebody else will call in. And gosh, I like leverage. I like scale. So next time, I don't have to spend 45 minutes on the phone. I can point them to a website that lists all these things that we've learned to be true. And so started this website called faithdrivenentrepreneur.org. And then along the way, I thought, gosh, it'd be fun to do podcasts too. Podcasts were becoming popular. And I can get on just like you're doing right now and be on the other side, which I've now done hundreds and hundreds of times. I stopped doing our podcast maybe 2 years ago, but now it's a video podcast. And for the folks that are watching this, you can see that I've got a face made for radio anyway, so I don't lend it to myself to the video format. But so I started doing this podcast and hearing other people tell the stories about how God used them as they built this business. The business that they had. And I really, really enjoyed it. So that was Faith Driven Entrepreneur, the birth of the Faith Driven Entrepreneur. And then we thought, gosh, maybe we do some of these video stories. We'll send a video crew out. I hired a guy who named his co-founder, because he came out really essentially at the beginning, named Justin Foreman, who worked at Right Now Media. And he was the executive vice president there. And he brought in and introduced this concept of telling these video documentaries of these faith-driven entrepreneurs. It's like, wow, so we'll go ahead and we'll distribute them out to people, tell more of these stories. And I thought, and this is his idea, if we'll tell some of these stories, but then we'll couple it with some teaching from a pastor. And so I knew J.D. Greer, who's a pastor friend of mine from Durham, North Carolina, and he said he'd do them. And we, along the way, had said, we should probably have this kind of, if we're going to launch Faith Driven Entrepreneur, if we're going to have a ministry behind it, maybe someday it'll be a movement. I mean, we all, as a small staff, read the book, The Starfish and the Spider, what makes movements, what doesn't, et cetera. We knew that there should be some sort of common DNA. And I knew about the guys from Capitol Baptist Church, which had the marks of a Bible-believing church. I think it's the 9 marks. So we thought we'd have marks. So we started off, we had 4 marks. And then we had 5. I remember when we went from 4 to 5, somebody said, you should probably have Call to Create that kind of like births this movement and purpose, so people can understand they've got a purpose. The first one was identity in Christ. I knew that was the most important one. That was 1 of 4. Then we brought in Call to Create. Well, we have 12 of them, and we've been set at 12 now for 5 years. And it includes things that I mentioned before, endeavoring to be faithful rather than willful. Entrepreneurs tend to be willful, trying to get things done under their own power, being joyfully generous. The biblical message of generosity was the source of my born again moment at age 38. We want to be able to help people to discover the joy of generosity. And a part of that is another one we have is that we are stewards, not owners. And so Faith Driven Entrepreneur has now grown so that we've reached well more than 1 million with our content. We have more than 100,000 YouTube subscribers. We've had more than 25,000 entrepreneurs that have gone through this community group that we do, which is this 8-week session with these videos with JD and a mini documentary and 40 minutes of facilitated content. They're hosted at churches in 130 countries now. It's
wonderful.
Really cool.
So
we just, through the grace of God, we just had our Faith Driven Entrepreneur Conference, which we did online last Friday, and there were 680 watch parties around the world.
Great.
It's just awesome. Really, really, this is infinitely more fun than telecom, Simon.
Yeah.
Infinitely more fun. And telecom can be pretty cool.
Yeah. It makes me think of Ephesians 4, 11 to 13, where the pastor, prophet, evangelist, apostle, all those guys, their job is not to prophesy or to evangelize or to pastor or to teach. It's to equip God's people to do it, to multiply themselves out. And your spiritual gift, I love it. It's just, you have multiplied yourself out thousands of times in terms of enabling and equipping other people to fulfill their God-given mandate. So praise God, cheering you on all the way in that.
Hey folks, I love being part of this massive international community of faith gathered around this podcast. And I think most of you know that it comes out under the auspices of Great Lakes Outreach, and we work in Burundi, which is currently tragically still the hungriest country in the world. And yet amidst the grim narrative, there's so much beautiful stuff going on. And we reckon that our 30 ministry partners out there have meaningfully impacted 950,000 people this year, and you can be a part of it. Could you consider giving, £20 or $10 a month, something that's small to us that makes a humongous impact out there as we get prostitutes out of prostitution by teaching them a trade, or microfinance initiatives for widows to be able to start their own business, or orphanages being equipped with what they need, school sponsorship. There's so much beautiful stuff. If you want to consider that, I would love your help. And if you're enjoying the podcast, please do so. Go to greatlakesoutreach.org/inspired. That's greatlakesoutreach.org/inspired. Thanks so much for your consideration. And now let's get back to the podcast.
Can you share some, everyone takes a pasting and a battering sometime, and you either go down or you learn a lesson and you get back up. So any key lessons there?
Maybe the biggest long-term challenge I've had is the struggle between being willful and faithful, and the performance-based anxiety that I don't know that I've ever fully been liberated from, although I see the work of the Holy Spirit in my life that continues. So there are, to be clear, there are different times along the way that have been very difficult. We had the biggest deal we'd ever done. So we started off Bandwidth with these values of faith, family, work, fitness. And so one of the things we had said early on, and maybe one of the reasons why we never got venture capital, is we refused to do work with the two largest consumers of internet access. We had said to everybody, we're not going to do business with scammers or the adult entertainment business. Mm-hmm. Two largest industries consuming internet access. Mm. And a big deal came in the name of a holding company. And I remember it closing. It was so important for us. We were 2.5 years in. We had spent through all the money that we had put into it. And we were really in desperate straits. And it was hard. I mean, it's really hard. This is when we're trying to raise capital and we couldn't. And we we believed in the business, but it was just really, really hard. And so this big deal came in, and I remember it closing because my partner, David, gave me a high five, and he was a former Marine. And my hand still stings from that high five. It's like, I'm so happy this deal closed, but I'm in so much pain right now. And it was a great thing. The challenge was in the provisioning of the deal, the installation of the circuit. We discovered that it was for the bad guys, the adult entertainment people, the porn guys. And so we had an ethical dilemma. The ethical dilemma, by the way, wasn't whether we installed the circuit. You can't. I mean, you've got this firm. You started with these values. You made them public. Mm-hmm. But it was how we handle the compensation of the sales rep. The sales rep had worked a long time on the deal, had done everything right. Mm. And I mean, he was hoping for this commission check and done everything we trained him to do. So at the worst cash position we'd ever had in the company, we paid the largest commission check for a deal we didn't close.
Wow.
We wanted our team to know that we were about them. And we really felt after praying about it that this is something we needed to do. And as I even retell the story now, it feels ridiculous. So like, well, you go back, and if you're going to do something, you defer it out, or you give them, maybe another quarter point of equity. I mean, a whole bunch of different ways to do it, but we felt called by God to do that. And the statement that made for the rest of the employees who knew our financial position was amazing. Hmm. And then I think that God blessed that decision. And it's not to say that when we go through hardships that God always works through them and they always end up this way. And yet this one did. And everything, all the credit at our business goes to God. Yeah. And especially this one. We, from that point on, again, we're the fourth fastest growing privately held company in the country over a 5-year stretch without raising venture capital. So it's all organic.
So good.
And it was really just an amazing time. But that was hard, just waiting on the Lord. There's all sorts of different sin patterns in my life that the Lord has allowed me to get free from over time. I mean, there's selfishness, there's greed, there's the ongoing wrestling that I have with the spirit of mammon. Through the grace of God, He's allowed me to understand the biblical message of generosity, but I still have some amount of just wrestling with that. Just, is it ever appropriate to fly business class? My kids can't figure out why I don't have a fleet of Ferraris and why we don't have jets. And theoretically, we could afford those. But I also realized pretty early on that I need to get the assets out of my name. I needed to put them in the name of a foundation, because if the ring was on my finger, like, Gandalf, Frodo, right?
Yeah.
Don't put the ring on your finger. Got to get it out of you. You got to get in the name of, you got to get it out there in a foundation. And so that's great because the foundation trustees won't allow me to buy a Ferrari or a Gulfstream with the money.
Good.
And yet, to be clear, Kimberly and I go on great vacations too. So it's not, and our kids went to private school and all are going to college. And I'm looking out a nice view right here from our house in California. So we haven't we don't believe in a poverty gospel at all.
That's important.
But, there's always, the strugglings. We're in the world and I see it all around. And there are times when I yearn out, I cry out that God will Jesus will just come back. So we don't have to fight the battle every day. Sometimes there are days that I fight the battle like, okay, should I witness to this Uber driver today? Should I not? I don't know. I'm feeling tired. I don't feel like engaging with some guy. Sit next to somebody on a plane and like, am I not being, did I have a prompting from the Holy Spirit that I should share my faith? I mean, these are minor things. But, then you just reflect around all the different things going on around you. You mentioned this at the outset of the program. Just look at the news. It causes you to be cynical. It causes you to be depressed. And yet we have this faith that we hold on to, that Jesus is coming back, that this all ends really well. And there are just days that you oh my goodness, God, take me now. And yet I've got a beautiful, wonderful wife, and I've got 3 awesome boys who are all at university, and I really want to be with them for a long, long time too. So there's these different moments of dissonance that, and then then there's all, get Proverbs 16:2 and 21:2, right? All of a man's ways seem pure to him, but his motives are weighed by the Lord. So through the grace of God, faith-driven entrepreneur and faith-driven investor, we have a new initiative called Solving the World's Greatest Problems. It's about elevating the stories of problem solvers all around the world, in adoption and foster care and clean water, and inviting the body of Christ to get in the game and asking them, what's your problem? There's a problem all around us. And so let's get into this. But there's this sense all around, just like, oh my goodness, there's just so much that's broken. And what role do I play in it? And as an entrepreneur, you feel like you need to solve all the problems because you're a problem solver. And yet, you also know that you need to rest in the Lord, and Sabbath is a real thing. And so where am I being disobedient? Where am I filing? How do I do that? So there's all these kinds of things. And there's going to be a point in time where we won't have to worry about any of that. We're just going to be with God in heaven forever. There'll be no more stress. There'll be no more problems to solve. And yet, there'll be real work to be done there, but it's going to be all joyful. I don't know what it looks like it's the elves that are singing in Santa Claus's workshop. I don't know what it's going to look like yet, but it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be wonderful. And there are times that I just can't wait for that to be the case. Because back to the things I'm doing right now with these different initiatives, am I doing them to be drawn closer to God, or am I doing them to just see things grow because I like to see numbers go up and to the right, or am I doing them because I want to be famous? Or that I want to have more LinkedIn followers, or I want the approval of my peers, or I want my boys to admire me? I mean, any one of the different things that I look at, some people say, oh my goodness, it's so great that you get a chance to do this. And you could be like on a beach drinking Mai Tais or something like that. But, are my motives really pure? Probably not. And even on days in which I think that they really are pure, the Lord's weighing my heart and knows how messed up and broken I am. So yeah, there are days I just want Jesus to come back and just free me from all this, please.
So it's Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, well-known verses, aren't they? Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. We constantly, we want to have the right motives, don't we?
Yes, we do. And then also we want to have the right motives. We also want, in Psalms, and really the base of so many revivals, show me where my heart's not pure and where my hands aren't clean. If we really want the Holy Spirit to come, if we want to see revival, can we pray that God will show us what you just read from Proverbs? Can he show us? And then we can be involved in just an incredible revival, just as a witness to it. Imagine that boy in John 6. who gets to see his lunch.
Yeah.
There's a problem, right? They're solving the world. At that point in time, the world's greatest problem for that boy was that 5,000 people didn't have food. So Andrew comes up to him. I think it's Andrew comes up to him, asks him what he has. And the boy gave 100% of his lunch. So that's revolutionary. It's revolutionary. He gave 100% of the boy's lunch. And then the boy didn't feed the 5,000. Jesus took it from Andrew and used it to feed 5,000 under God's power for his glory. But it did start with this opportunity of a boy giving 100% of his heart to and worship. You know, I've got 3 boys that are all at university. Food's a big deal for a boy. A big deal. So, the thing I alluded to this before, I was 38 and it came to have this born again moment. And it was long story behind it, but it ultimately culminated in this, the boy of John 6. Like, oh my goodness. So Kimberly and I were giving away about 20% of our income. And I thought there's probably a special place in heaven for the double tither. I don't know what we're getting. It's going to be awesome. And I had a friend of mine, Daryl Heald, who asked me, all right, so I understand all these places you're giving to. And he didn't call me out for the pride I had in them. But he just asked me a question. He's like, so why do you give? Like, what do you mean, why do I give? And we got a lot of money. We've had a lot of success. It's the right thing to do. We want to pay it forward. I mean, any one of a number of theological C- answers, were just all coming out of me. But over the next 6 months, it seemed like everything in the Bible had something to do with money, including some of the passages that actually don't mention money, like the boy John 6. Like, oh my goodness, God can take something out of nothing. Just 5 loaves and 2 fish and feed 5,000. So he doesn't need my money. Doesn't need my money. But he had 100% of that boy's heart, and he only has 20% of mine. Andrew comes up to me. I'm like, you know what? All right, so you need money, or you want some? I can give you like a half a loaf and maybe like a half of a fish, and probably the half of the fish I don't want, right? And that's what I would have given. But the boy gave it all. It changes everything. So there's so many days I walk into a day, and do I have a boy of John 6 attitude, or am I kind of hedging? And some days, I'd give Andrew a whole loaf, and other days I give him a loaf and a half. But am I wholeheartedly? Or the thing that's got me recently is the story of the lepers. Am I the 9 lepers that get cured of leprosy and then just roll off and just like, hey, I'm off to see that the girl I used to like in high school is still interested in me now that I'm free of leprosy? What is, or am I like the one leper who came back praising God in a loud voice? Every day, I'm something less than the one leper, and I'm something less than the boy of John 6. Or, and the last one, I don't have to start preaching to your audience. What I'm really an expert at, last time I actually really knew what I was doing is when I sold t-shirts. I was a world expert in t-shirts. That's the only thing I'm really equipped to really tell people how to do. But the last convicting thing is Paul and Peter hanging out together in Jerusalem. And they had this 6-day kind of like this epic, like kind of time over campfires and stuff like that, learning about each other's stories and the gospel that they're preaching. And at the end of it, it's clear Paul's going to go. They're celebrating the same gospel. Paul's going to go off and he's going to preach to the Gentiles, and Peter's going to go out and preach to the Jews, and they leave each other to go off on this separate divide and conquer mission. And Peter's there with Paul, and he's like, remember to take care of the poor. Yeah. That's the last thing. That's the last encouragement. That's all we know about their dialogue was what was said at the end. Super important. Remember to take care of the poor, which it is just really convicting and compelling. Like, am I remembering to take care of the poor? But even more convicting is Paul's response to Peter, which is like, duh, like that was the very thing we were eager to do. Am I eager? Like today, am I eager to take care of the poor? I'm something less than eager today. I was something less than eager yesterday. I'm more like the 9 lepers. I mean, it's just all these just gradients of the sin in my heart. So we have this initiative called the world solving the world's greatest problems. Well, G.K. Chesterton came up with the answer. What's the world's greatest problem? It's me. And yet, God, through his infinite grace, has sent a savior, and that when we can realize we don't earn our salvation, it's a gift.
Yeah.
If we can remind each other of that, then we can find that joy and that peace, and it is a beautiful joy. It's a beautiful peace.
Preach it, Henry. Oh, listen, I could listen to you for a whole lot longer. We are coming towards an end. I don't want to miss out on any more gold. I want to set you up, Henry Kaestner, on his soapbox to share a few more key lessons or key stories. Just go for it.
Well, it's the encouragement to your audience, to this audience, to me, is that we are in a battle, and it is a real battle. It's a battle, and it's not against flesh and blood, but it is a battle against evil and principalities. It's a battle against the prince of the earth. And the beautiful thing about it is that God in his infinite sovereignty knew that the world would be this messed up and chose us to be in it. Chose us to be in it. And might we all be like the sons of Issachar that knew the times, and that we would lean into it, and that we would find ourselves having been placed on this earth for such a time as this, and lean into the battle and find people to be in the battle with, and know that the battle is going to end up in victory, and that we can get out there. And the worst thing that's going to happen to us is that we die. That's the worst thing that can happen to us. Actually, maybe the real worst thing going to happen to us is that we show up to heaven well rested. We show up to heaven well rested. And then we're there now. So we're in heaven, because the work for us is to believe in the one in whom he sent. So we're up in heaven. And then the question is, what happens on, like, I don't know if the interval is like 4 hours later, you have like the judgment at the Bema seat, or you just had this interview with God and just like you give an account for the things you did and didn't do. I don't know if it's 2 days later. I don't know if you have time to prepare for it. I don't know if you're assigned a tutor. I have no idea how it works. But I want to be able to say, I was messed up, and you saved me. There's so much to repent from, but thank you for having forgiven me. And thank you that under your power, you were able to send other brothers and sisters that I could do battle with. And that you gave me an opportunity to fight in an epic battle with real meaning and eternal consequence. And you allowed me to be in it. And then through your strength and for your glory, you allowed me to be on a winning team. I don't deserve to be here, but thank you for the opportunity that while I was on earth, to be a part of this incredible, incredible story that you're unraveling around the earth. Thank you for that. And yes, we all want to hear, well done, good and faithful servant. And yes, I just yearn to hear that. But I know that I can't do it under my own power. I have to do it under his power. I need to do it with brothers and sisters. And if I don't have close friends that aren't impressed by me, who know my sinful fallings, and yet continue to love on me and say, come, let's go fight that fight together.
Yeah.
Now I got a shot.
I wrote a book, More Than Conquerors, and that's Romans 8:37. We are more than conquerors, and it's we, isn't it? We trumps me.
Yes.
We live in a very individualistic society, but actually we got to do it as a team. And
Yes.
As you're talking, I'm thinking of my grandfather, who was a great servant of Christ in Africa, 50 years. And when he was put in the ground, the preacher said of him, which I wouldn't mind them, and I think they will say that of Henry Kaestner and hopefully myself and others, with some qualification, I'll give that. But as Grandpa went to the ground, the guy said, Jim Graham, a great old Scottish preacher, he said, Peter Gilbo worked as if he'd live forever, and he lived as if he'd die tomorrow. He was just all in. He worked full on, flat out, energized. And the qualification would be, actually, we are meant to work from a place of rest. And I know you speak a lot about Sabbath and how important that is. So we are turbocharged, but having been charged through Sabbath rest. But Peter Gilbo, Henry, Simon, whoever, may that be without qualification, each of our story. We worked as if we'd live forever and we lived as if we'd die tomorrow. Let's make our lives count. Let's just go for it all in, flat out. Henry Kaestner, thanks for your time. It's been fantastic.
I'm grateful for you. Thank you for you. Thank you for your audience. If you've listened this far into this, what an encouragement you are.
Oh, it's been superb. I can listen to you all day. Listen, folks, I'll put details on Henry and his work in the blurb for you to engage with. And I've just been challenged at multiple levels there. It's been brilliant. Next week, we'll have another fantastic guest. Very different story. I want to thank Adam Thomas Steer for the editing, Mike Sandman for the mixing. Can you give us a great review on Spotify or iTunes so just more people come our way through whatever algorithm, however that works. We don't really understand that. But anyway, have a great week. Go for it. God bless you, and toodaloo.